anyway, listen, what I was going to say was, what I was going to say is that Mike Oldfield's now got a new album out.
Yeah.
But he lives in the Bahamas, and he says he's no intention whatsoever of leaving the Bahamas to promote it either in Britain or around the world, that he hasn't left the Bahamas for 5 years and has no intention of doing so.
Why not? Well, it sounds like quite a nice position to be in. He probably still makes a bucket load of money off Tubular Bells, doesn't he?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a very interesting... I've seen this piece written about him, he very rarely gives interviews, and in fact, even this interview, which appeared in the Sunday Times, it was done over Skype, but he would not allow his full frontal face to be on view while he was giving the interview.
Full frontal face?
No, he wouldn't allow it.
What do you mean?
He put it into shadow and turned his head sideways so nobody could take a picture of it.
Moonlight Shadow?
No, I don't think it's anything like that.
That's the name of one of his songs.
I thought that was Cat Stevens. No. Everybody's talking about a Moonlight Shadow.
No, Moonlight Shadow was in Mike Oldfield.
Okay. Right, anyway...
I'm being followed by a Moon Shadow, I think you're thinking about, aren't you?
No.
It's Cat Stevens.
No, I don't think so. Anyway, it's not about Cat Stevens. Right, he says, I live a very austere life here. This is in the Bahamas. He says, I do not see Sean Connery or the billionaires in the gated communities. I don't have any staff. He says, I only got a cleaner for a few hours a week. But he's 63 now, right?
Got a cleaner for a few hours a week.
And he does everything now to prevent anybody seeing him. The journalist who did this was a guy called Oliver Thring. He says, we've arranged a video chat on Skype, but he dials in with his camera turned off, reluctantly switching it on only when I ask him to. It reveals a grainy palm tree and the silhouette of half his head. When I suggest he tilts the camera, he makes a lengthy pretense of not knowing where it is and won't do it. I ask him what he's hiding from. He says, well, I haven't left NASA for nearly 5 years now, since I returned from performing at the opening ceremony for the London Olympics. That will have been my final ever public show. I'll never be doing one again.
Well, I mean, if you're 63, why would you bother? I mean, he's probably a multi-millionaire, right? Why would he need to go?
Well, he's not. This is the point. I'll get onto that. He said, I never enjoyed gigs, and I'll certainly not be touring for the new album, which is called Return to Omnidown, whatever that means.
Omnidown?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's Omnidown.
Omnidown?
Omadorn.
Omadorn?
Yeah, Return to Omadorn. O-M-M-A-D-A-W-N, okay?
Right.
Which is apparently a reference to the music of his early career.
Yeah, it would have been another album, wouldn't it? Omadorn,
Omadorn? Yeah, okay, Return to Omadorn, yeah.
Sure.
So, but he does say, this is a very interesting man. He said, I would have been honoured to perform at Donald Trump's inauguration. I was hoping he would win. Everything has been going downhill for years. We need a big change. That's why I'm delighted with Brexit. He says he likes reading books about the Second World War. He says, where would the world be without the Russians? Lots of my fans are Russians, you know.
Sounds like he's got a bit mad.
Well, no, this is so interesting. He says Trump's a fan.
He lives as a recluse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He only ever sees his cleaner.
Yes.
He's a big fan of Donald Trump.
Yes.
And he's got lots of Russian fans.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes on to say, Trump is a big fan of mine, so is Putin, and so are China. All the big countries need to unite to rid the world of terrorism. He has a very pessimistic streak in him, but that's understandable. It says, last year I underwent a punishingly expensive divorce.
Yes.
That was from his second wife, whose name was Fanny van der Kerkhof.
Van der Kerkhof?
Van der
Sounds
Kerkhof.
a bit Dutch, that.
No, she's a French horse breeder who was 24 years...
Say somebody else there for a second.
His junior. As a result of the divorce, he's had to replace his...
A French horse breeder?
Yeah, French horse breeder, yeah. As a result...
That's great, this story.
Yeah, it is a great story, isn't it? As a result of his divorce, he's had to replace his 68-foot yacht with a 17-foot yacht.
Well, he's not broke then, is he?
But he doesn't go out anyway.
He sounds a bit of an eccentric, this guy.
Well, he does a bit, yeah. He's got children all over the place. Van der Hoekver, right, has custody of their two sons. But Oldfield has another two children from a relationship with a Norwegian singer.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's got three more.
Is that the reason why he got divorced?
Well, I'll get to that in a minute. And he had three more in the 1980s with Sally Cooper, who was a British PR.
Oh, yeah.
He says, quotes, the divorce has given me awful financial problems. And with the way the music industry is going, I could be in real trouble in a few years.
Well... maybe it should have been a bit more careful. How many kids has he got? That's 7.
I counted 7 altogether, yeah. Hang on, 2, 2 and 3, that's 7, yeah.
So he went to live in Ibiza, because remember you killed him, you killed him off, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Some years ago, you said that he'd gone to Ibiza and drunk himself to death.
But it wasn't, it was the guy who wrote Baker Street.
Jerry Rafferty.
Jerry Rafferty.
You know, one of the reasons he moved out of Britain was because he was so enraged by the smoking ban.
Who?
What do you mean, who?
Mike
Oldfield.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Jerry Rafferty then for a minute. Well, that's funny, because it says that during this course of this interview, he was sucking on roll-up cigarettes.
Yeah.
So that's what he's
Well,
saying.
he's obviously a big fan of smoking.
Yeah, but anyway, he says the little ceremony of marriage has terrible repercussions when it goes wrong. He's
pop quiz.
asked how much he had to pay out in the divorce. He says, I'm not allowed to tell you, but it seems very unfair to me. He says, I'm now single. I don't miss female company at all. I don't want anything romantic. I don't want any love. I don't want any sex. I will never get married. Sorry?
What about the cleaner? You might be Brazilian.
He says, I will never get married again. No way on this planet will I ever get married.
God, he sounds a bit bitter and twisted, this guy.
Well, he's had a terrible tragedy in his life, because the divorce topped off a rotten couple of years. In May 2015, Oldfield's eldest son, Dougal, collapsed at work one morning and died of natural causes.
Oh, God.
He was 33.
How awful.
And he says, I'm still processing that. It was so unexpected, cruel and unkind, it's painful even to think about. So that's obviously blighted his life in a big, big way.
Well, it would, yeah.
As of course it would. He has spoken about, before about his years on the therapist's sofa. Who does he have to talk to about all his problems, including Dougal? He says, I do not need anybody for that. I'm robust and can be aware something is not there anymore without going to pieces. And then he reflects on, things in the past.
So presumably he's done this interview as part of the promotion for the album, though,
but it's the only thing he's doing to promote the album. The only thing is, I'm not going on a tour or anything like that. I'm not going to. But the thing is, people started telling him he was a genius just as he was leaving school when he was 17, because he was already writing music. And then he wrote Tubular Bells. He was 19 when he wrote Tubular Bells, an extended and pioneering prog rock masterpiece.
Yeah.
On Tubular Bells, he played all 20 different instruments.
Yes, that's right.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. And one of the reasons,
That's
as I say, that
incredible.
he became sort of Richard Branson's, I suppose, if you like, his kind of, pilot fish, if you want, was because at the time Branson only had, because I used to go to school very close to it, he had a record shop, Virgin Records, in Notting Hill Gate, and it was the only shop that he had.
Right.
And until he then started a record label, and he started to move into actually making music, he wasn't doing particularly well. And then suddenly Mike Oldfield signed up to Virgin, and it sold so many records. I mean, it turned Branson into a millionaire kind of overnight.
Oh, absolutely, because this is the next bit he talks about. Young thruster named Richard Branson suddenly picked up on Tubular Bells in 1972 for his nascent label, i.e.,
Virgin Records.
Virgin Records, yeah. So he signed Oldfield to a 35-year contract. That's the sort of businessman Richard Branson is, right? Boosted by being chosen as the theme for The Exorcist, the LP went on to sell 16 million copies and remained in the charts for a record number of 250 weeks in this country, establishing the Virgin Empire and Branson's fortune. And it says that it's ironic now that Branson has become a billionaire and lives not very far away in the Caribbean.
That's right, Necker Island,
That's right,
where he's currently hosting the Obamas.
That's right. However,
the time, by the way.
Oldfield grew to resent the deal, and on one occasion,
he doesn't sound like a very easy guy to get along with.
No, and actually hate Branson, right?
Oh, really?
And in 1990, he slipped a very sort of crude insult to Richard Branson in Morse code onto one of his records.
Did he?
Yeah, it was tapped out in Morse code.
You see, that's the act of somebody who is very kind of angry.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's angry about women. He's angry about the guy that made him.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I know that he was responsible for his own sort of destiny by being such a clever guy.
Yes.
But why be so angry?
Did you mention the more lawyers than friends bit?
No.
It says here, when he lived in Ibiza, where he went through a terrible time, experimented with drugs and all that kind of stuff, he says, I barely survived. In those days, I had more lawyers than friends.
Yeah.
He moved to Ibiza.
Now he hasn't got either, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and had some wild years taking club drugs and enjoying a delayed adolescence. He sold the villa he'd built there to Aces star Noel Gallagher. But anyway, it says in Little Nassau, where he lives now, with its wrinkled celebrities and plutocrats, Oldfield finds a taste of his happy early childhood. The Bahamas are very British, but it's the Britain of the 1950s and 60s, and that's the Britain I love. Not your Britain of the 2017. Don't want anything to do with it.
What a sad man.
Yeah.
How about this from Becky?
Amazing.
She says, were Porky and Mike Oldfield separated at birth? Apart from marriages, they are uncannily alike. At least Porky can sing.
That's very harsh.
She says.